Okay, so we are gonna get right into it. This is the vlog playlist called Seize the Day Carrae. I'm Carrae, and I had a seizure a month ago, as of today, the 5th. So June 5th is when I had my first seizure, diagnosed tonic-clonic seizure. It's the first time I'd ever passed out or anything. But let's start with who I am. I'm Carrae. I'm 22 years old. I'm from Utah and I live in the South right now with my boyfriend. Um, yes, so that being said, I had my first tonic clonic grand mal seizure June 5th in a Target parking lot. I um, was having small, what I thought were tremors um, all day. And I've had tremors since I was in 5th grade. Let me make sure I stay on track. I've had tremors since I was in 5th grade, but they were diagnosed as tremors when I was 18 years old, stress induced tremors, which wasn't very helpful because, like, how do I just manage the stress induced tremors when I also have diagnosed anxiety? So it was a big thing of trying to figure out what was going on. I did want to be an actress all growing up, and so my mom thought these blank spells and stares were, like me not wanting to listen or things like that. They just weren't very significant. They weren't very, you couldn't tell they were anything but just a kid zoning out. I'll get into what absent seizures are, what tremors are, what tonic clonic seizures are. But so yeah, so that's basically it. Is I've had these since I was in 5th grade. Tremors since 5th grade. Ever since this grand mal seizure, I have talked to my primary care doctor, and they have said they're no neurologist, is what they started with, but my tremors kind of are sounding more like they were absent seizures versus tremors, um, which makes a lot more sense, and I'll tell you why when we go over the definitions of it all. Um, Basically, from childhood, 5th grade was the first time I ever remember it happening. I had a crush on a kid, and he hugged me, and I literally just don't even remember it. I remember blanking out, spinning around, and going to run back to the little cubicle or portable outside. This was at recess to go grab my friend where she was hiding behind, waiting for me. And halfway back over to her, I realized he was right there. Like, why did you walk away? Why did you stop hugging me? And I just had to play it off. And I freaked out and was like, what is wrong with me? I'm crazy. I just hugged my crush and I ruined it. Um, yeah, so it presented itself as a blank spell, just staring off into space. My eyes were open, but I couldn't see. How do you explain that to somebody without sounding crazy? Um, but it had kind of stayed like that for a long time, for a few years, and then over the years, over time, went on. I may have, I may have done things that didn't help the threshold, but I didn't know there was a threshold to be had, that I could lower, like a seizure threshold. I didn't know I was having seizures. Um, so I'm trying to just kind of explain this. This whole vlog is just a my journey type deal. Seize the day Carrae, to talk about the ups and downs, talk about what I'm learning on this journey of health, and that's kind of it. We're gonna go over like the basic definitions of everything so we can kind of have an understanding. And if you guys who do take the time to watch this, I appreciate it. If you guys know anybody or you yourself went through something similar like this, any advice would be really cool. I lost my job, license, everything within the last month, and it's just been like a whole switch in every single part of my life. So just kind of open to hearing what people have to say. That being said, said a little bit about me. Again, I'm 22, living in the South with my boyfriend. Um, the seizure was a buildup of what we now think are absent seizures versus tremors. Just from what I talked to my doctor about, he was like, I'm no neurologist, but you kind of sound like you've been having absent seizures. Like you end up throwing something on the floor because I can be holding something and then I don't know where I'm zoned out for 3 seconds and whatever was in my hand is on the floor. So it's just like it started getting worse. Um, so what a tremor is, if I hope I'm saying this right, psychogenic tremors. They're also called functional tremors. They can appear as any form of tremor. Its symptoms may vary, but often start and stop suddenly and may affect all body parts. The tremor increases in time of stress and decreases or disappears when you are distracted. That wasn't really what I found to be the case for me because even if I was trying to distract myself, it wouldn't really go away. So absent seizures, the definition of that is a person, an absent seizure involves brief sudden lapses of consciousness. They're more common in children than adults. This one is a very big thing for me because it just makes so much sense for not who I am, but what I've gone through over these past 11 years of not knowing, if I'm doing the math right, 11 years, 5th grade, I'm 22 now, I think that's 11 years. Okay, a person having an absent seizure may stare blankly into space for a few seconds, which is what ended up happening, like how it started. Then the person typically returns quickly to being alert, which always happens. This type of seizure usually doesn't lead to physical injury, but injury can result during the period when the person loses consciousness. This is particularly true if someone is driving a car or riding a bike when the seizure happens. Absent seizures usually can be controlled with anti-seizure medicine. Some children who have them also develop other seizures, such as generalized tonic-clonic seizures or myoclonic seizures. But many children do outgrow the absent seizures in their teens. So what's kind of interesting to hear about that is like most people do grow out of it, but if they don't, it forms into the larger seizure, which is the tonic-clonic grand mal, which is what ended up happening. Which is kind of relieving too. I mean, it sucks that it took like a grand mal seizure to figure out that I was having seizures for the past 11 years and nobody knew that. But it is kind of frustrating. But a tonic-clonic, here's the definition of that. Tonic-clonic seizure, previously known as a grand mal seizure, causes a loss of consciousness and violent muscle contractions. It's a type of seizure most people picture when they think about seizures. During a seizure, there's a burst of electrical activity in the brain that causes changes in behavior and movement. Seizures can be focal, meaning the burst of electrical activity happens in one area of the brain, or seizures can be generalized, in which they result in electrical activity in all areas of the brain. Tonic-clonic seizures may begin as focal seizures in a small area of the brain and spread to become generalized seizures that involve the whole brain. So, it's kind of crazy because turned into that. We find that out when I go to the ER, right? So now we're in the process of figuring out, why, how, when, how long, all of this, which I'm really excited to be able to go to the neurologist in 2 days, which is why I'm making this. My brother told me I should do this playlist, and I was kind of hesitant about it because I didn't know if I had anything useful to say, but you know what, even if I don't really have anything useful to say, this is healing for me nonetheless, and so it's good to figure this out. And if this is just one-time seizure, great. If this has something to do with something bigger, because I have had other health issues going on recently, and my mom was just recently diagnosed with her Hashimoto's disease last year, and I've had some symptoms that kind of are worrisome, so it makes you think and wonder, like, oh, is this all connected? Is it all separate? So basically this vlog is a journey video, or a journey playlist, to talk about the ups and downs, talk about how I'm feeling, and update, and hopefully get some advice from you guys. But yeah, so I'm Carrae. I'm seizing the day. Every day we are just streaming and doing yoga and trying to find the highs rather than the lows of the day. And I think this might be helpful. So thought I'd post about it here. Been going through this for about 11 years. It's kind of cool to know that, like, since I did start taking that seizure medication a month ago, I haven't had one tremor. So kind of makes me feel like they weren't tremors. It's very relieving to know that. So we'll find out more in 2 days, hopefully. If not, we're just setting up a consultation. But I'm going to be making these more and more, whether it's just talking about updates or just talking about how I'm feeling that day. Thank you for joining me on the journey, and I'll see you on the next episode of Seize the Day Carrae. Bye, y'all.